So you guys have heard of MKII EARS, right? Of course you have. You heard of this one at the very least, the Odin, the $3,000 something endgame IEM. But there's a lot of other ones from MKII EARS, and today I have my first impressions of 6 of them that I tried at a local store that I went to a couple days ago. So in today's video, we're going to be discussing my first impression on the Odin, the Hero, the ESR MKII, the Valkyrie MKII, the Bravado MKII, and I think one more in here. Yes, the Legend X. So I'm gonna go in no particular order here, but I know you guys want to hear my thoughts on the Odin the most, so we're gonna start with that one, all right? So the Odin is probably the second most expensive IEM from MKII EARS. I know there's the Phantom, but a lot of people have discredited that one as probably the worst MKII EARS IEM, and unluckily or luckily, there weren't any samples for me to try, so I didn't get to try that one. But the Odin, second most expensive and probably the most popular one that people talk about. Is it as good, or is it endgame quality like a lot of people claim it to be? The quick and dirty answer to that is yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's very good, especially for those of you who love bass. It has a very satisfying sub bass, mid bass, just bass recreation in general. It's very dynamic. The punch, the slam, it hits hard. It's really tuned well, super clean as well. Maybe a little bit touch of warmth added on to the lower mid-range there, but all in all, super clean sounding, powerful bass, rumbly, just a bass lover's type of dream. As for the rest of the frequency range, I would say the mid-range is tuned very well. It has sufficient energy in the upper mids too, making vocals come across quite clearly. Even though the bass is so powerful, it's not hiding the mid-range in any way, so the mid-range here is done quite well. Vocals come across quite full. I would say more full than it is warm. It has a touch of warmth, but it doesn't come across like warm, if you know what I mean. Just forward and full and natural. It's something I really like. Now the treble area, I would say can be a little bit tame. I wish it was a little bit more sparkly, but that's really just nitpicking it. That is the only part that I can really find a con about. But yeah, treble area, I wish it was a little bit more sparkly, maybe a little bit more even. Resolution wise, another win for the Odin. It is quite well resolving. It's endgame level resolvability. It is $3,000 something, which is probably the worst part about it is that it costs so much, but coming with that price, at the very least, you know you're getting an endgame piece. So if you want to spend that much, you're not sacrificing, you know, any quality if that's what you're worried about. But yeah, it is expensive for an IEM. No one should ever spend that much. But if you so wish to, it's a great IEM. It's one of the best. Next, we have the Legend X. Now, Legend X coming right after the Odin. I remember trying the Odin first and then trying the Legend X next. And coming from the Odin, the Legend X, still expensive IEM, mind you, is probably the worst one I've tried that day. Not the worst, there's one worse than this, but Legend X is not at all for me a recommendation. Not even to anyone who want to buy it just because they like the design on the shell. It's just not a good IEM to me, especially for the price tag. Definitely not. So the pros, let's get into that really quickly. It has a really mainstream focus, bassy kind of tuning that's easy to love by a lot of beginners, if you will, but for high fidelity, for audiophiles, it just doesn't really hit home. It's just too bassy. The bass is uncontrolled, it bleeds, it's slightly bit overpowering. The vocals just feel a little bit too warm. It's just not something that sounds natural. And for those of you who love to listen to pianos or anything that requires a more naturally or cleanly done mid-range, the Legend X is just gonna kill that. It's just not as high fidelity as you would expect for the price tag that is presented. The one thing that it has going for it is that it has great resolvability, has great details. For the price, I would say it is near endgame level of details, but that doesn't fix the problem it has in the tuning. Upper mids as well as treble lack energy, so vocals really feel like they take a back seat. All in all, just not a pleasant tuning. I mean, it's mainstream. People who don't know a lot about the audio world or the audiophile world, anyone who's putting on the Legend X on first listen without any prior knowledge of the hobby will like this IEM. It's not a bad IM in that regard, but for the price, you would want something more, I would say, high fidelity. Let's move on to the Hero. I would say this one was a like for me. It's a recommendation. I enjoyed this one, not as much as I did the Odin. It's not as good as the Odin, but it is a good IM in general. Let's first talk about the pros. So pro number one, it is a decently done bright V-shape IM. Yes, it is a bright IM. The treble is a lot. It is a bit forward. So for some of you, that will be a con. For those of you sensitive to treble, you guys will have to stay away from the Hero. That's not for you. But for those of you who like that bit of extra clarity, that bit of extra spiciness, then the Hero is actually a good option for that style of signature. It has good resolvability as well. But yeah, the treble really is gonna be the deal breaker or the highlight for depending on the listener here. But other than that, not much else to say about the Hero. It's just a really nicely tuned IM that leans a little bit bright. It has good bass, good mid-range, a lot of great energy in the upper mids and the treble area. So vocals do come across forward and lively, and that's something I enjoy. But other than that, it's really up to you and your treble preferences. Next, we have the Valkyrie MKII. Now, the Valkyrie MKII, I remember being just a run-of-the-mill. I didn't hate it. I didn't like it. It is a very basic V-shaped signature IM. It's easy to like. Anyone is gonna listen to it and just enjoy it. There's really nothing to really hate about it. It has good upper mid-range energy, so vocals do come across correct, forward, and lively to an extent. The bass is enjoyable. There's quite a lot of bass, and the bass control and quality is generally good. The con, however, and this is the thing that makes me not love or like the IM so much, is that the resolvability is not up to par with the price tag. When you're paying this much for an IM, you expect at least near top tier level resolution, or else it's just not worth it at all. This one, the stage needs work. I wouldn't say it's narrow, but for the price, it needs some work. Treble extension is a little bit lacking, especially in the air department. Everything feels a little bit enclosed, and that's why when I talked about the upper mids and the energy in the vocals, it does have energy, but only up to an extent. It doesn't extend well into the treble, so it's lacking that bit of natural energy for especially female vocals. There's good and there's bad about this IM, but I think the bad kind of kills all the good for me. Hence why it's just a neutral reaction. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it. Don't recommend it though. Next, we have the ESR MKII. This one was actually really good. I like this one. It's really different from the other IM in the Empire Ear collection. It has a warmer touch and a nicely done warm touch as well. Nothing that is bloaty or bleedy. It's just a nicely done warm tuning IM. And it's something that's easy to love, easy to enjoy, relaxing to listen to. So for those of you who want a little bit less energy, more relaxing, comforting kind of presentation, then the ESR MKII is solid. And while it is a relaxing IM, it doesn't sacrifice too much in the treble. It's still a decently well done treble, not too dark, slightly bit tame, but done tastefully in my opinion. Just overall a good IM. Now, the one or two small cons that you might find with this is that number one, it might be too warm for some. Warm signature is not for everybody. Some people like it, some people don't. But the con number two might be an absolute deal breaker. Sub bass extension is a little bit lacking, and bass power can be more. Yes, so for those of you who are bass heads who love bass, sadly the ESR MKII is not gonna fit that bill for you. But for those of you guys who generally like bass, you know, not too much bass, you guys want just a totally relaxing experience in general, a well done relaxing experience, then this is a great choice. Highly recommend it. And last but not least, we have the worst IM I've tried of that day. It is the Bravado MKII. This one is bad. Let's start off with the pros, and the only pro I have down for this thing is well done upper mids and treble, naturally and decently extending. That's the only good part. It's the upper mids and the treble area. That bit of energy, the top end, good. The rest of it, wholly bad. Let's start with the bass. Overpowering bass. It puts everything in the back seat. Vocals, instruments, everything just feel like it's way behind the bass. This is like the Beats by Dre, these Sony headphones. It's just really mainstream, extremely bassy type of tuning that just overpowers the rest of the range. And to see it done at such an expensive price tag blows my mind. It's just not well tuned. You're not gonna get much resolution or details whatsoever with this one. Just a lot of bass, sub bass, mid bass onto lower mids, just all bass basically. I think that's all I really need to say about it. Resolution, details, just throw that out the window. You're not gonna get much out of it. It's all in all probably the worst MKII IEM I've tried, and no, it's a hard no. Just please don't buy it. Don't have to try it either. All right, that's it for this video today. Sorry to end on like the worst IEM and start on the best IEM, but I think some of you guys appreciate me talking about the one you want to hear the most first. So yeah, there you go. That's all for MKII ears. I know there's more in their collection, but I've yet to find a place to try them. There was only 6 of them there at the time, so I tried the 6. And yeah, if I can find more to try in the future, I'll try some more. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Bye.